Well, hello. Welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. Ian Gomm is an English singer-songwriter, probably most recognized for his 1979 hit, Hold On, which did very well in the US and Canada, and a personal favorite of mine, a timeless track. From 1970 to 74, Ian was the rhythm guitarist in Brinsley Schwarz. And if you check out my YouTube channel at Pale Blooms and Beyond, you can watch my conversation with Brinsley Schwarz back in February. How many out there are aware that Nick Lowe's classic, Cruel to Be Kind, was co-written by my guest today? Mr. Gomm has enjoyed a solo career as well, recording 10 solo albums and 12 solo singles to date. Well, welcome, Ian.
Hello, I'm here.
Yes, you're there, and I'm here.
That sounded really good. Was that really me? How many?
Is that you? Is that you, or is that AKA someone else? No, that's that's not DeVille, Mr. DeVille.
Okay. What twin brother?
Well, not the evil twin, I hope.
Oh,
no.
not arms.
Well, thanks for joining me. Take us back to the beginning, if you will. You were born in Chiswick, West London?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was born. In fact, the funny thing is, Nick Lowe just lives around the corner from where I was born. I live in mid Wales now, in the hills. But I was born. There's a motorway in London. I was born. They knocked the house down that I was born in to build the Chiswick flyover. How about that? So I can't even visit where I was born anymore. And then my parents moved to Ealing, West Ealing, Northfields, which is a suburb of West London. That's where I grew up.
Okay, what are you have some fond memories of your childhood there?
Well, I'm old enough to, I was like just born at the end of the Second World War. So I grew up in a street, like a terraced house street, which was, all I can say is everybody, because of the war, everybody had been drawn into each other. I mean, we used street parties for the children. We used to go on coach outings. This is like the people in the street. Coach outings used to go to the London Palladium at Christmas time to see a pantomime. We used to go to the coast in the summer. And then over the years, as things get on, it just fell apart because, you know, the war was over and it was just all fragmented. It took a few years to do it. I used to have a paper round, delivering papers. And I just become aware that I must have been about 10 when I started doing it. And then you suddenly realize that you don't really remember, you don't know all the people in the street and it's all changing.
Yeah. Well, were there any bombed out buildings that you used to play in?
It was like, we used to play, I used to go roller skating in a place called Northfields. And it was in a park, in a very small park, really. But it was where the public bomb shelter was.
Oh, okay.
The top of it was still like tarmacked and bits where the air vents were. And it was great for roller skating. That's all I you could never get down it. I don't think I was brave enough to go. I think they had it all capped off. And then in Ealing Broadway, it was like, it used to be like, like teeth, when teeth are missing. There'd be a building, a gap, a couple more buildings, a gap.
Right.
It's that's it. I've got some Dutch friends, and they always used to say, their joke was back then, "Oh, Mrs. Hitler, why your son turned out so bad?"
Oh, that's good.
Similarities between back then and what's happening now with bloody, what's his name, Putin. The same thing. I don't know why they can't. Don't they get fed up with bloody killing people?
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, jumping ahead a little bit here, but were you pretty
Political
pop,
state.
popular in Holland? Your music?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's the point is Gomm actually is, with an e on the end. Gomme is Flemish.
Okay. Okay.
My name in America is Ian Gomm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's Van de Gomm.
I hear that story that a lot of artists from the UK were really big in Holland, and then they'd go back home and, nobody would know them. Basically, it's like they really hit it big.
We were voted #1 group in Limburg, which is a province in Holland. We were what 2 years running. We were voted the top group there.
Yeah.
It's well. You imagine I had a hit. I had a top 20 hit in America, and it did nothing here. It was a hit in Holland, did nothing here, and Canada, did nothing here at all. So I would tour America and come back to where I live in a sort of small village, and I come back here, and it was great because nobody. I mean, in America, you'd be walking down the street, and a car would pull up and go, "Hey, Ian, hey,"
Right.
Here it's just normal again. It wasn't normal, it's quite handy that because I mean Brinsley Schwarz, we toured with Paul McCartney, and I can see we spent quite a long time on the road with him touring the UK, and when he fought Wings, Paul McCartney and Wings.
Mm-hmm.
I used to sit on the coach with him, talking to him, and you could see like every time he went into a hotel, everybody would, the manager, somebody would say, Paul McCartney's just checked in downstairs. And his manager would go, Mr. McCartney, now welcome to hotel. And I was thinking, it's like he's on holiday all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I like what Brinsley, referring to that interview, what he said about a supposed manager, which wasn't Paul's real manager, came and said, okay, you guys have to cut your set now because Paul wants to play. Mr. McCartney wants to play. And he said, no, he'll play when we're done.
Yeah.
And he had almost a fight with this guy.
Talking to Paul, because I'm like that. Some girl said to me in America once, she said, shut up, Motormouth.
Funny.
I just sit on this coach. He's sitting at the back of the coach. All the other lads are all bloody drinking and gambling, and of course, being no, I'm not that like it. I don't. I always lose when I gamble anyway. So
I do too. I'm not a good gambler.
I just thought, well, I'm not going to sit on this coach with Paul McCartney and not go. He was sitting at the back on his own. Linda was another seat, and I thought, I'm just going. I said, "Are you all right?" And we used to talk for hours, And he is a human being after all, and so am I. And but when it's Stardom, it's another thing. I've brushed my brushes with it, but I don't think I can handle it all the time. It's you never get any peace.
Yeah, I couldn't either. And performing today, some of the Paul and Elton and the Stones, and I mean just playing these huge arenas, and I mean, do they really need the money? I mean, it's funny.
Well, when you're a huge arena, we in the Brinzes, we used to play. We got the best nights when we was playing in little clubs with many people, because you go to an arena once in the Brinsley Schwarz group. Once the American band, they were playing at Wembley Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
He did somewhere near London. A friend of ours who was in a record company said that the band wants, and they're looking for somewhere to rehearse. So we lived on a farm in the Brisbane, and we had a rehearsal barn. And so we said, oh, you can come here. So, I mean, the Brinsley Schwarz group, we spent all our time trying to sound like the band. And then one day, this stretched limo pulls into our farm, and the band got out and went into our rehearsal place and started playing real quiet. and we were standing outside, and it's like they're our heroes, and they're here, and they're playing better than we could play. And somebody came, opened the door and said, Levi isn't happy with his vocal sound because they were using our PA. So I said, oh, I'll go. I walked into our rehearsal, and they're all there. It's just like, oh, there's Garth, there's Robbie, it's Robbie. He was sitting there, and he said, my vocals in the hollow zone. There's no hollow control.
There's no control.
These things, isn't it? Better be better. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, great. And then a day afterwards, we went to Wembley Stadium, which is, it's quite big. And we went to see. We had free tickets because we let them rehearse in our barn, and we went to see them. And we went in, and it was like they were like that size.
Yeah, little ants. Yeah,
stuck in a room with them, listening. They were that size, and it just takes the edge off it slightly. And you're just thinking, and then to compensate, they have to have a big screen behind them so you can actually see what they're actually doing.
Right.
I don't know what it's,
No, I like the more intimate surroundings, like you said. Even some of the pubs. You guys did the pub circuit,
Oh, yeah.
But when you have a lot, fewer people than that,
You can actually get through to when you get feedback,
Right.
But having said that, in the Brinsley, I always remember in the Brinsleys, we went over to play a university in Cologne in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
It was all students sitting cross-legged on the floor listening, but they thought we were heavy metal.
Okay.
And I always remember we played about 3 songs, and this young guy got up and he said, "This group is shite. Go home." Very much.
Couldn't meet their expectations. Well, go back. Can you remember any of the, when you were young, again, going back there, any music being played in the household, or were either one of your parents musically?
I've still got my singles collection in a box somewhere. I started with a guy called Adam Faith.
Yeah.
It was okay, but it was just like very British. Yeah. And then after, I think record 45 I bought. I was looking at a TV show live from outside Buckingham Palace, and it was like a record request show. And could you play Cathy's Clown by the Everly Brothers? And they played. Oh God, that's brilliant! So I went out and bought it, and then there was a group over the Shadows, which everybody. I bet Brinsley mentioned them. The Shadows. Well, I bought a few of their singles. And then I thought it was the Ventures. I like the American one.
Oh, okay.
That's what I've always liked, American music. I don't know. I think I know, and it's funny because what I noticed is what the British musicians, the motto should be through adversity. If you wanted to be in a group, I mean. Most drummers, they couldn't even afford to buy a drum kit over here. But in America, it's about a third of the price. It was much cheaper. And it's much more. I went to Nashville at the turn of the century to record a solo album. Rock and Roll Heart, it was called, still available. And I noticed that, I was staying with a guy called, my friend who was a bass player, it was in the Amazing Rhythm Aces. And Russell Smith was the lead singer then. And I was round his house, and his son said, "Hey, you're going to watch me on TV this afternoon? My school band is playing." Now, if you said that in Britain, you'd expect about, 5 kids playing school band. And I turned the television on to look at this, and there's about 200 of them all doing this secret. They were playing in perfect time, marching around, doing those figures of eight. Now that's the difference, you know. I think America. I don't know. It's far easier to be a musician in America, black or white. You know, it seemed to be than over here. It was. I mean, I had to build my own amplifiers to get one. You know.
Yeah.
I made my own guitar to start with. Oh, it wasn't even a guitar. It was like 3 banjo strings and I made the body was square to be like Bo Diddley. I used to love Bo Diddley.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever play a ukulele?
Only recently. Okay. George Harrison used to say he said I play the ukulele because every time I get it out and play it, people smile.
I've heard that was the first instrument for a lot of musicians, the ukulele. Yeah. So and then
the Shadows had a hit called Apache.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard that, Apache. Well, that was written by a guy called Jerry Lorden. And I tell you another thing I do is piano tuning. And in the Brinsleys we had a piano, and I thought I've got quite a good musical ear. And I thought, and we carried it. It was portable. We could take it around with us, a proper piano with a pickup on it. And I started tuning it for Bob and I got into it, doing it that way. And so, you know, I was, when things went flat in where I live, I just thought, what else can I do to earn some money? Yeah. Then I started piano tuning, and it sort of kicked off. In the end, I tuned Jerry Lorden's piano. He's the guy who wrote Apache, the Shadows, and he wrote it, and he let me pick up. He wrote it on a Martin ukulele.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I said to him, he said, "Oh, it's over there in that case." And there it was. So can I hold it?
Wow. Yeah. I've heard how. Yeah. Influential Hank Marvin. Yeah.
Started doing like 20-minute sets for community sense, just to help out people. Can you do 20-minute set? Yeah, okay. And we were the Ukulele Dreamers.
Is that right? Really?
Dreamers. You know, Bob Dylan, if not for you. And I do a few of my songs. We did it once at this village hall, and after we did our set, this woman came in round the back, and she said to me about one of my songs. She said, "You've got the words wrong." I said, "It's my bloody song. I can sing what I want."
She was trying to tell you how to sing it, huh? Wow. Funny. Well,
this is fan base.
Yeah, right. Well, when did you begin that apprenticeship at EMI Records? And that must have really helped you later on too.
Well, it did. All right, I'll give you the story. I left school, and I hated school.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't even let us play. I was in groups then, and they wouldn't even let us play at the school dance. Well, they didn't have dance. It was a grammar school for boys, you see.
Okay.
And I was working class. So I was driving. I was, you know, the pecking order. I was right down at the end, lower end, and they, you know, you mean you play the guitar? Sure, you don't want to play the clarinet? No. I don't like the clarinet. I want to play the guitar. So I started off, and then I left school, and then I did this 5-year engineering apprenticeship with EMI. Well, actually, in the same factory was where they pressed all the Beatles records.
Okay.
So the Beatles are keeping this place going, actually, the place. And I worked there for a bit, and 5 years, and I was always in groups. In my spare time. Can you imagine this? I was in a 3-piece Tamla Motown group. Imagine it. Three-piece Panamoke. And this is a true story. We used to play they weren't even, we used to play wedding receptions, and we got this gig once at a place near Kew Bridge in West London called the Kew Boathouse. And the promoter there, he had this fiddle where he used to just play, he got you to play for nothing really, because, and we went there, and one night we set up in the corner by the radiators in the corner, and we were doing our Tamla Motown, whenever I see you, all that bit. And I sort of played rhythm lead and sang, and the group we were supporting, we turned out the group was an embryonic Pink Floyd.
Really? Oh wow. Okay.
And various, what was his name? The guy who wrote the keyboard player, Sid Barrett was in them then.
Yeah.
And Roger Waters, and not David Gilmour, he wasn't nothing to do with it then.
Richard Wright.
Yeah.
Richard Wright?
It was four of them. There was four of them, and they had a light show.
Yeah, it was Richard Wright and Nick Mason. Yeah.
That was it. And they had a light show, and it was two boxes on. There was a box either side with a blue light in it, and it was flashing. So it was doing flashing. Yeah. They were playing this sort of. It was really futuristic music, and I quite liked it actually. I quite liked it. So I'm standing there with this promoter. He said, "This is a load of bloody rubbish, isn't it?" This. And then suddenly the audience was all these young men, young lads, skinheads they were, in their roots, and they actually hated it. They were booing, booing them. And one of them ran on stage, and actually throwing coins at them. And one of them ran on stage. Roger Waters was standing there, and he grabbed the microphone off Roger Waters, and he went, "No, and there was going to be a riot." We paid for our stuff off, and we had to go and start playing on Tamla again.
Oh my word! Oh.
Well, I say, slow. I think we did.
You don't hear that story very often at all.
It's true.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Anyway, EMI, that's when I was working at EMI. And Sir Joseph Lockwood, I was apprentice draftsman, and Sir Joseph Lockwood was the chairman of the EMI organisation. And I was talking to somebody in the drawing office once, and we had an internal mail system. It was quite a large organisation. And somebody said, "You ought to see if you can get an audition with EMI Records since we were here." So I wrote a letter to Sir Joseph Lockwood. I said, I work for EMI, I'm in a group and all that. How about an audition? And after about a week later, I got a letter back from Sir Joseph Lockwood. Said, "Well, of course, come up to, Manchester Square in London, and we'll have an audition." Well, I was auditioned by Norman Hurricane Smith. And he was Norman Smith then, and he was the Pink Floyd's engineer as well, producer for the early stuff. And we played in front of him, and it was the classic one where the other two guys in our three-piece didn't work for EMI. So Norman comes up to me and he puts his arm around my shoulder. That's the music business, it is. And he said, "We'll like you, Ian, but get rid of the other two."
Oh.
They're my friends. It's a group.
Right.
So EMI lost interest.
Because you wouldn't give them the axe, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's unfortunate. Hurricane Smith, he had a single, didn't he? Didn't he have a hit?
That was it. I can't remember. Norman Hurricane Smith.
Yeah, he did.
I
know that name.
Yeah. I can't remember it.
Yeah, I can find it.
Tip of my tongue. No, it wasn't that.
Well, Talk about some of the other early on before you joined Brinsley Schwarz, some of the bands that you supported. You mentioned Pink Floyd.
Where did we do? I think that was the height of that was the most famous person we used to, but we used to play like wedding receptions usually, because it's the only gigs we could get. It was so rough. It was in West London. It was so rough. We used to, like the wedding reception. Everybody, they all started drinking in the hall as we played on stage, and then we used to take bets what time the fight would break out. Because and what they all been drinking, and it used to be like when they queued up for the food, and then so like, I'll never like your brother. He's a bloody nut. What do you call that? Blood like going out the hall to the in the nose. And one night, I think I said to the audience, I said, "Look, could you please, if you are going to fight, could you please hit each other in time with the music? Could you
there you go. There you go. Yeah, keep the rhythm, right? Yeah.
It's like the band. Remember the band did that. The American band, they did that the film, didn't they? With Van Morrison. What was it called? It was a film, and they got all these people to, and they were following the band around, and they were talking. The band were talking about
the last waltz. Was it the last waltz?
That was it. They said, "Well, we were playing at this place, the Starlight Ballroom." He said, "It worked out why it was called the Starlight Ballroom, because there was holes in the roof and you could see the stars."
That's why they called it that.
I think everyone said, he said, there was three people in the audience and a fight broke out.
Because three's a crowd, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not going to get along too well. Oh, babe, what would you say?
That was good, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you should be.
Right. So we give a plug to Hurricane Smith. So talk about. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's all right. You keep going.
I was going to ask you. So
I remember.
Leading up to tell the story of how you joined Brinsley Schwarz.
And I joined Brinsley Schwarz. Well, I had to think. I really wanted to do it professionally, because there's just nothing I could think about. All I want. I'd sit there tapping me. When I was a draftsman, I'd be sitting there tapping my pencils and singing to myself and all that. I just thought, I've got to do this. So there was a music paper called the Melody Maker over here, and in the back was the classified adverts, and it became, you got a bit of a skill. You could read, you could actually see decent auditions and really awful ones. I did a couple of awful ones, which entailed, you'd go on the tube to some address in East London or something, and then you go in and there'd be some guy in a bedsit. I don't like, this is not what I just want, I'm better than this. And so I saw this one. I think it said, I read it and I thought, that's me. That's me. They want somebody who can do what I do. So I asked it, and they said, come along to the audition. So I turned up at this house they're all living in communally, and we went in this little rehearsal room they had there, and I just did what I did, played and all that. And what I didn't realise, and I don't think Brinsley said this, but I didn't realise that they were all tripping.
Really?
And Nick came out, he said, "Hey, you're in, man. That's fantastic. You're in." And I thought, "Oh, I'll be in a group. Oh, yeah, great." And then Dave Robinson, the manager, he came back somewhere, and they said, "Yeah, we found somebody." I think they auditioned, like Brinsley said, they auditioned about 5 people before I went in. And Nicholas said, "Here, we found somebody. You're all high on acid. You can't do that." So I had to go back, I think 2 days later, and I took my girlfriend, who is still my wife now, and I did it all again while they were straight, as they call it.
Right.
And I still got it. There we are. I still got it. I can remember sitting outside while they were discussing it, and they played a song and it came through the window of their rehearsal. Oh, it was fantastic. What's it called? It was one of their songs off their first album. And I just thought, I said to my girlfriend, I said, "I've got to be in this group. They're fantastic."
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
So it was a good fit for you and for the band.
Yeah, well, I added the bit. They could make records, but they couldn't play them live like they wanted to. They wanted to do harmonies and all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, I joined, and I was a very useful addition, because not only that, I had my engineering skills.
There you go.
Could build PAs and repair the equipment. At some stages, I used to go to the gigs with my toolbox. You reckon that? And you're sitting there geared up, waiting to go in to play at some college, a college gig, and you're waiting, and the roadie would come in and say, the high watt slave has stopped working. So I'd have to get it, they'd bring it into the dressing room, and I'd have to strip it down, get my soldering iron out, fix the bloody thing, and then they'd take it out and say, "Yeah, it's all working," and then go and play on stage. I mean, it's hardly getting your head, in the right space to go and play music.
Well, you should have gotten paid extra for that, union wages or something,
Well, what can I say? I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing it. There you go.
Yeah.
And then I could do. A lot of the Brinsley records. I used to do the harmony arrangements on it. Well, together we did it, but I came up with a few good ideas. You've ever heard of What's So Funny About Peace, Love and Understanding?
Oh yes.
Well, that was one of my ones where it goes, "And where is the harmony?" And I did that thing with it.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, I told Brinsley that. I said I'm surprised that Nick didn't have a hit with that before Elvis. I just
Elvis, that was my bit, the guitar bit. Ding, ding, ding. That was me.
Yeah.
Elvis did it, and he's just bloody wrecked it. Not supposed to go like that.
It's always interesting to find out the origins of songs too.
These people, they go, I love Elvis's original version the best. It wasn't the original version.
It wasn't. See, they don't know. Yeah, you're right. They don't know that. I did. Speaking of Pink Floyd, just yesterday I talked with the one I was talking about before, where we had the opposite problem. At the beginning, I could see him, but I couldn't hear him. Was Pat Martin of Unicorn? Do you remember the band Unicorn?
Yeah.
And the song "No Way Out of Here" that David Gilmour covered that on his solo album from '78. So they had originally wrote that, and that was another one. What you talk about, people misinformed. I thought it was a David Gilmour song, but no, it was from this band Unicorn.
Well,
country rock.
I gave up on David Gilmour when he actually sued Roger Waters for the name Brinsley Schwarz. Before I talk about Pink Floyd,
right,
for the rights to use the name. He joined after. He joined it, afterwards. And I saw this clip of him justifying taking them to court, so he could claim the name. Right. And he was sitting in this barge in the Thames outside his mansion, and he said something like, "Well, I had to do it to protect my career." Now, what is he? What planet is he on?
Yeah.
Career. Yeah. What?
Right, right. See, I've heard, that he and Roger butted heads for a long time. And I've heard a lot of people really come down on Roger Waters, say he was the evil one, but
No, that's what they spin it, don't they? Spin it round to
yeah, they do.
they want. Well, on the subject of fame and all that, when I had my hit in America in Holland, and Martin Russian, he's dead now, but he was my pal who produced it. He was great. He was, and he sang harmony on Hold On, and I went to a party around his house once, and he introduced me to Foreigner's manager.
Okay.
Manager, and this guy said, "Hey, Ian," he said, "I'm really interested in managing you." I said, "Oh yeah." Luckily, I'd had a couple of whiskies before I spoke to him. He said, "If you listen to me and do what was, I can take you to the very top, the very top." I said, "Well, actually, I don't really want to go to the very top." Yeah. I said, "I just like to be halfway up the ladder."
Right.
At the top are completely messed up. And he said, "Oh, no, you get it all wrong." I said, "Hang on." I said, "I'm quite happily married. I've got 2 kids then, got 2 kids. I'm really happy with what I'm doing." I said, "Anyway," I said, "how's your life?" I said, "You married?" He said, I've had 3 divorces. I'm on my 4th wife or something. I said, "Well, don't tell me how to ruin my life."
Yeah. I don't think I could ever get to the top of the mountain because I'm afraid of heights myself. So I don't think that would work. Well,
It's do everything I say. I'm not a bloody robot.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Well, it's I'm not. There's something about I've seen a few people in the music business, and I tell you what, the Paul McCartney tour we did, he asked for us to be on that. We must have been a pretty good group because he asked us to be the support act on the tour, and at the end of the tour, we did 2 tours of it went so well the first tour, we did another tour as well. And at the end of that, Paul decided he was going to have an all-star party at the Café Royal in the West End in London. And that evening, we actually we opened at the where was it? We opened in London. No, tell a lie. Yeah, we opened in. Hang on there. We opened in London for the Wings show at the Hammersmith. Was it the Shepherd's Bush Odeon? It was a big gig in London anyway. We did that. Then we went and played a pub rock gig all evening in this little pub in the Kensington. And then we drove in up to this Café Royal to go to this party. So we walked into this party, and it was on the 2nd floor, and they had a ballroom there. So we got there, and our manager Dave Robinson said, "Hey, they're going to stage there. Let's play. Let's just get everything in. We'll do another gig." At which our roadies quit because it was like it's the 3rd time they'd have it. "Need trebles," they said. "Need trebles, we're off." So we had to carry our own gear up these stairs. And I started really, there was like Mark Bolan carrying the tom-toms and all these things. And we got up to this room, and it was full of every music, because it was Paul McCartney's party. Every music, we were looking around this room thinking, they're all here. Parker, Cat Stevens, Elton John. We were sitting there having pink champagne, my wife and I, and my wife said, "Don't look now, Rod Stewart's standing behind you." And I said, "Well, look, Elton John's standing there. He's behind you." And we said, and can you imagine a room full of peacocks? They're all used to people they're all peacocks, like people look at them because they're so, they're so amazing. Their tail feathers, and people look at them. You imagine a room full of peacocks, and they don't know what to do because they can't all, nobody's looking at them. They're all peacocks. It was really bizarre, and I was wandering around this room, and I was thinking, oh, that's right, we got all our gear in, and we started playing on this stage. We did a few songs, and then we said, oh, you're all musical, come on. They're all too busy doing what they stars. Because in the end, we played about 4 numbers, and then at one stage I was jamming. I thought, I'm not going now. I'm going to stay here in the corner. This looks good. And Keith Moon was on the drums. Elton John was on the piano. Paul McCartney was on bass. I was on rhythm guitar. Who else was there? And I thought, this is fun. Great thing for my CV, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
And it was. I think what did I think I went wandering around, and there was Pat Stevens was talking to what's his name in the Stones, the guitarist, the one who should be dead. Come on, help me out here.
Keith?
Yeah, Keith. He was talking to Pat Stevens, and somebody had handed. I think Cat Stevens had a joint, and he was puffing away at it, and then he handed it to Keith. And Keith, he had a couple of totes, as they call it, and then he handed it to somebody else. But Keith, he handed it to somebody. He said, I've got leprosy. He obviously Spinal Tap. I think I love that. Spinal Tap. And the final. Was it sex, drugs, and rock and roll? I said, well, I just forget about the rock. Sex and drugs and rock and roll. He said, well, forget. I'll just stick with the sex and
the drugs.
He said the drummer choked on his own. No, the drummer choked on vomit. The only trouble was it wasn't his vomit.
It was someone else. That's a great movie. That I laughed through the whole thing when I watched that. That's a great movie. Yeah.
Some of the things we've been through in my career, it's just like, backstage. Backstage is something so totally different. You don't realize, you go on, you see the stage with all the lights, and you go backstage these things. It's like, I'm changing in the toilets. I mean, how many wash hand basins have been used as urinals? It's just, and if you follow the group, luck.
Yeah. Well, did you in your time with Brinsley Schwarz, the bands that you supported and that supported you, did you make any connections with any members, make any long lasting, kind of friendships or anything like that?
With who? With other members, other groups,
other members of other bands.
Well, I still Paul Carrick.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Still, it's just. I mean, anybody who's still performing these days is good luck. Nick's still doing it. Well done.
Yeah.
But I don't think I could. I mean. When I came off tour from America, there was a group over here called Tapao. They'd had a hit, and he'd been touring America. And I saw the keyboard player who lives quite near where we live here. And I'd been back about a month or so after this 5-week tour. I mean, my hands were still shaking. It's like it's too much coffee.
Yeah.
And I came back and I saw this guy from Tapao, and he'd obviously just got landed the day before, and he was out in the shopping with his wife, I think, in a supermarket. and he was pushing the trolley, and he was hanging on to the trolley. You know, I said, God, is that what I look like when I came back? You know, it's what do you say? It's a young man's game. I mean, you know, when you're that's what managers do with groups, don't they? Keep them working for the first 3 years before they have a chance to actually think, where's the money?
Right. Exactly. Take advantage of them. Yeah, they do. Yeah, and that's happened throughout his. Yeah.
My wife said to me once, I won't mention any names. I had a manager, and my wife said to me once, she said, "Can we get this straight? How come your manager's got a yacht and an Aston Martin, and why are we driving round in this Ford Cortina?"
Something's not right.
Yeah.
Well,
but thank goodness for what we've got over here, Performing Rights Society, and and publishing, because that over the years that has kept me afloat. You know, for all to be kind, I always say it's the best half an hour I ever spent round a kitchen table.
Right. You know who Guy Fletcher is, I'm sure.
Yes, I have heard of that name.
Yes, he was a real proponent for songwriters' rights, and he I can't remember the name of the organization that he headed up, but it was for songwriters.
Yeah,
songwriter. Yeah.
I joined them all. Don't you worry.
Well, talk about after the band broke up, you moved to where you are now, Mid Wales. Why did you move there?
I moved there because like I was saying, after 5 years of playing in the Brinsleys, and we actually exhausted. I mean, after you've been to, there's a club in the east coast of England called the Penthouse Scarborough. Mm-hmm. After you visited that every year for 4 years and played to the same audience, you think we've got to aim more. That's to be more than this. And so we came up with this idea of, we were offered a deal by Island Records to. The idea was we were going to make an album with an American producer and make it suitable for the American market, and Island Records were going to sign us. They offered us a deal, and we were going to go and live in America and play in America. That's what the plan was. But then, of course, United Artists, whose record label we were on, they come up with this thing about they wouldn't let us go. They wouldn't terminate the contract, so we could do the Island deal. You know, we need 5 more albums or something before we can release you, and they made it so bloody difficult. What I couldn't understand about it is they never worked out that the albums that we recorded for United Artists, if we'd have been successful in America, they'd have sold more of them.
Right. Yes, they would. Yes.
I think we just gave up in desperation. So rather than just being another musician stuck in London, playing every weekend in a smelly old pub somewhere, and staying, I don't want to do that. So at the same time, a friend of mine, he was in a group called Hawkwind. He also was a Brinsley Schwarz roadie for a bit. He said, I'm building this studio in Mid Wales, up in the hills. He said, I've bought this little farm, and how do you fancy coming up and turning the cowshed into a 16-track recording studio? And I thought, well, I've got nothing else to do. I'll go and do that. So I came up here with my wife and my daughter then, and I thought, we'll give this a go. So 2 years later, we'd actually built a studio in his cowshed, and that's what I did for about 4 years. I don't know if you've heard of a group called the Stranglers.
I was going to ask you. That's one of my favorite bands. The
Yeah.
Stranglers.
Well,
Yeah.
I got in touch with them. Well, somebody got in touch with me who was managing them. He said, I just found this group called they were called the Dagenham Stranglers then. He said that they're looking for somebody somewhere to do some recording. And I said, well, they can come up to our place and we can try, we hadn't even tried the studio out. So they came up from London to Mid Wales. It's about 250 miles up in the hills. They came up and this ice cream van turns up. It comes down it was like a hill drive into the studio bit, into the farm. And this ice cream van, and out the back came the Stranglers and their equipment. And I said, is this a joke? Oh no, it's Jet Black was the drummer. It's his business. He sells ice cream during the week. We go to all our gigs in his ice cream van. I put the jingle on. They have jingles.
Yeah, the song. Yeah.
Jingle on, and all the sheep in the field went, "What's that?" So we did. I think I did four tracks with them, and that's how they got the deal.
Did you order a Rocky Road from him?
Oh, what a
Rocky Road ice cream? Did you order some?
It wasn't selling that time. It wasn't selling, but we had there was a guy called Alexis Corner. He came and recorded.
Yeah.
Heard of him? No, he was in the early Ealing R&B club. He started. He was in the Ealing at the same time as the Stones were starting.
Right. Early blues.
Yeah, embryonic.
Yeah.
Very funny story about. He came up. Alexis Corner came up with his. I think it was his son and his bunch of people, all I dare say hippies. I can't say that, can I? Yes, but anyway, and they came up to do some recording, and they all came to the studio, and he had this idea of working in a coal mine, and he wanted to record it in the open air. So we recorded in the open air. Then he decided that he wanted the chorus and the middle eight changed round as the way they recorded it.
Okay.
And I said, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. I said, if you can just clear, because they had all these kids and dogs and everything. I said, just clear the studio control room, leave me alone for a couple of hours, and I'll do it. So I'm there, and I've got the tape. It was 2-inch tape. So what you have to do, you have to mark the chorus, and then you have to cut it with a razor blade, and then so I had the chorus of 2-inch tape and roll it all up, put it there, then to get the middle eight, and the idea is to swap them around and you splice it together. I'm doing the middle eight, and I heard this crunching sound behind me, and I turned around. His dog was eating the middle eight. This guy went spared. I said, leave me alone. But you should be here. The middle eight.
The dogs always like to eat homework. I know that. So he's eating the middle eight now. Well, also the German band Amon Düül. You worked with them as well. Yeah.
So I mixed them.
Yeah.
Because they had. Were they Amon Düül too? I can't remember. But Dave Anderson, who was the bass player in Hawkwind, and whose studio it was, he was in Amon Düül, in Germany, and he was friends with the guitarist in Amon Düül, and then they recorded this album. And we were in the studio, and one day, and I can't remember what's his name, John somebody, and he come from Munich. And they just recorded this album, and he wanted to play it to Dave. So he put it on, and I didn't think much. I said to him, I said something like, "Has your drummer got a bass drum?" He said, "I can't hear it." He said, "And as your, I did make a few comments about it, and actually, imagine you hit a raw nerve." The next thing, his managers are saying, um, "Well, could you remix it for us?" Me, remix it for us? Okay, I'll do that. He said, "Well, pick a studio where you want to remix it." And I'd heard this 10cc was this group in Britain, and they had a studio in Manchester called Strawberry Studios. And I thought, I'd like to do it at Strawberry Studios. Okay. The next thing I know, I'm in Strawberry Studios remixing this album. And this is a funny story. So their managers, the German managers of Amon, they flew over especially to see how things were going. So they'd flown into Manchester Airport and they came straight into the studio. They had a recreation room with a pool table and a television. And at that time, there was a BBC TV show, and it was all about the hidden. It was all about the war and spies and all these things. And just as they came in the door from just arrived from in Britain from Munich, they walked into this, and the television was on, and it was showing this and the guy. It was one of an interrogation scene.
Couldn't have timed that better.
Yeah.
Around the same time, you were writing and recording some demos of your own, and then you signed with Stiff Records, Dave Robinson. There's that connection.
Well, I actually know it. When I was in this Voyle Studios, it was called, and for the first 6 months, nobody came, apart from the Stranglers. Nobody came. So I used to sit in there and just do my own demos. And I actually remixed the Brinsley album, unreleased album. I mixed that there as well. Well, nobody, it didn't cost me a bean, and I made my own demos as well.
Yeah.
I took them. I thought, well, okay, I can be a solo artist. How about that? So I thought I'd take them round to and get a record deal in London. Things are much different in those days. I wrote a record deal. And what's the name of I went round to see one off. He was in Oxford Street. He had an office, and he was the Bee Gees drummer. I can't remember his name, but he was the drummer in the Bee Gees, and he formed his own production company. So I went into his office, and he thought, big head he was. He had his cowboy boots on the desk. Impressed me. So I put my tape on of Hold On, and I played it to him. And the first thing I noticed was his stereo, only one side of the stereo was working. I thought, well, he's obviously, and, he played it, and then he said to me, well, let's face it, Ian, he said, the song sucks and you can't sing. And I thought, and I walked out of the office into the office, all these big buses. What's the point? Not suicide, but you just think, what's the bloody point of anything?
Right.
And the funny thing was, a year later, that was in the American charts.
I can't believe it didn't do anything over there, because it's such a great song. I mean, I can't believe that the people or those in the production and management over there, music, didn't pick up on that, because and the fans, at least you would think, would grab onto that song. Talk about how the background, how you wrote the song, where the inspiration came from for Hold On.
Well, as I said, when I was working in this studio, Royal Studios, right in the hills with farming, it's a farming community. Well, when I came up to Wales, I couldn't drive. I had a motorbike, but I couldn't drive. So I bought a car. I bought a car off a farmer, and I taught myself to drive in it. And it was it called? A Riley 1.5. And I was driving around in it, and it had a walnut dashboard. And I was reading that, and I was driving around here, and this song just came to me. Hold on, hold on, hold on. And I thought, that's good.
Yeah.
Just, sometimes these things happen. You can sit down and write them, but sometimes, or you get the inspiration just for the hook, even. It's called To Be Kind for half an hour. And I thought, well, that's pretty. I like that. Pretty good. So that's where I was. It came in a car driving in a beautiful scenery up in the hills, and then, as I said, I made a demo of it. Then I was offered. That's right. I was offered a solo single. I made a single to start with called "Come On" for Albion Records, they were called, and then that's when I met Martin Rushent, the producer. They put me with him.
Mm-hmm.
And, we did this. It was a Chuck Berry song which I revamped, and then they said, "Oh, it didn't do that well, so it was okay." But they said, "Well, make a solo album." So then I was put together with this bunch of session musicians who used to. It was really great because they just did. What did they call it? We're the musical mercenaries. We just do what you didn't have to. And we were supposed to rehearse for 3 weeks for this album, my first solo album, and we had it. We had it down in about 3 days. The whole thing. They were that good. We just did it.
Whose idea? I have to ask you this. Whose idea was to add the saxophone? That was the icing on the cake. I think the saxophone.
Well, I tell you who it was. That was Martin and me. We sort of co-produced it together, and I think he said, "Oh, let's have a saxophone on it," and we got a saxophone player in who started to do it, and I remember he started playing on it, and it was awful. Martin leant over to me and he says, "It's like the mating call of an elephant."
That's bad.
And then we got this other guy in. He just arrived from Los Angeles. He'd only been the day before. He'd been recording over there, and his name was Raph Ravenscroft.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a song. Have you ever heard Baker Street by Jerry Raff?
Oh yes.
Guy. It's him. It's him. He's class. You see, he just, like you said, he was the icing on the cake.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. And for Baker Street as well. He makes that. Yeah, he makes that.
Cool. He played well.
Yeah. Like you said, a saxophone can be played different ways, but the way he played it on both of those tracks is just. You can't put words to it. It just, it's so done so well, And there are other people that play saxophone that I can take or leave, but he did. He really added to both of those songs. Really did.
Really lucky. The guy, I tell you what, the guy's playing on it was Herbie Flowers, which is the bass player, and he's played on so many. He played with David Bowie records. He's played Mark Bolan. He played on all of these. He's like these session guys. The keyboard player was a guy called Chris Parron, who was playing with George Michael.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the drummer, Barry D'Souza, he didn't even have to tell these guys what do they do. They do it automatically. So Barry D'Souza was such a good drummer. He had his 6 drum kits set up in London studios for him. He was in such demand. He'd have them set up, so he just used to take a taxi round to these studios, and he'd just walk in, and his drum kit was all mic'd up and ready for him to go.
He was ready to go. Wow.
Yeah. I was so lucky to have them, these people. But as you say, it didn't do a bean over here, but that's the BBC for you.
Yeah, it's just dumbfounded that it didn't do something over there. Well, another track.
Lost this.
Go ahead.
The funny thing was, I think I was out piano tuning, and so long ago it was. I got my wife phoned up the place I was. She must have had the telephone number of the place I was tuning the piano, and she said, "Just had a telegram from Albin Records. Said your record is starting to go up the American charts." What? I don't believe, so you're so used to everything failing all the time, and it got there by merit, I think,
college radio was really playing it.
Yeah. Bless them. I'm still getting royalties now from what are they called? Sound Exchange in America. It's I don't know how they get it, but every month they get a little nice little still, and I think it's because they're playing it on oldies radio, on the oldies stations.
Well, have you noticed in more recent years, has it caught on more there in the UK? Has it become a little more popular?
Never.
That
Tasteless morons. The tasteless morons. The BBC. Once there was what was his name? Tony Blackburn show in the Brinsleys. We used to release singles like every 2 months. We'd have a single release. Zilch, nothing. Yeah. Wouldn't do it. And we're at BBC Maida Vale recording a track. And this guy came around the door, and I said, "Who are you?" He said, "Oh, I'm Tony Blackburn's producer." I said, "Why don't you play our records?" He said, "We play what the people want to hear." I said, "The people only hear what you play."
Right.
And they're so beginning, and it's all, I always, in the Brinsley days, all the singles that we'd released, if only somebody had told us to get it played on the radio, we needed to hire teenage prostitutes. It would have been all right.
Right, then it would work. Right. Speaking of your time with Brinsley Schwarz, another track, "Hooked on Love," was one you wrote.
Oh yeah.
Originally with Brinsley Schwarz, and just a couple of days ago, I watched the live the video that's on YouTube, and that was back in your hirsute days. You had the beard and you had the full head of hair.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And so, what did you think of Glenn?
That was a live recording. That was the Old Boy Whistle Test live recording. We did that one, and we did Surrender to the Rhythm, totally live in the TV studios, live at national TV. The only reason we was live because we fooled the BBC. What they used to do, you have to go in 2 days before you did the session, and you had to record the backing track because they only had a little studio. It only had 4 microphone inputs, and you had to go in. And what they did it's so crap, honestly. They used to give the drummer rubber cymbals. So if you look at these old clips, you see when they hit the cymbal, it goes boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
What they used to do is they'd have 4 microphone channels. They'd have 4 mics, and they'd play what you'd recorded 2 days before. So everybody was miming.
Yeah, that's right.
We used to mic up our own PA and everything. So we went in there, and we were supposed to go on a Thursday and record the backing track. So we didn't do that. We didn't turn up for that. And then they panicked, and we said, "Look, we're going to come and do it. We'll do it anyway." So we took our equipment in and hid it behind it. We put some of our cabinets hid our mixer behind it, and we mic'd all our instruments, all the back line and drums and everything, with our microphones.
Mhm.
And I remember this little input panel, and I said to the BBC engineer, I said, and we had the feed from our mixer. We mixed everything from our instruments, and I handed him a Canon plug, and I said, he said, "What's that?" I said, "That's the backing. You know, we're doing it. That's the backing. Just we want 3 microphones." So we did it, and we did it live.
Yeah.
They hadn't got a clue. They're bloody honestly, the BBC. They're all. I think you had to be a university graduate to be able to sweep the floor with a broom.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing more embarrassing than to watch some of those older clips where they're miming and they mess up. You know what I mean? I've seen a few of those where it's so obvious.
For crying out loud! The way was that the bloody mime?
Yeah.
How can you do that?
Right. Right.
Funny that after we did it live, the next week, it's funny enough, it was live.
Mm-hmm.
Worked out.
Yeah.
And in the end, I've actually contacted a couple of the BBC producers afterwards and said, we were the first group to play live on the Oracle instrument, and they denied it. Oh, no, this is the BBC, it's the class system. It's the British class system. They're all bloody upper class twits.
That reminds me of the twit races in Monty Python.
I know, I just thinking of Monty Python, it's all there.
well,
there you go. You're not going to change. It's all happened, but
yeah. Well, speaking of Hooked on Love, what did you think of Glenn Campbell's cover?
Glenn Campbell covered it.
Yeah, yeah.
Glenn Campbell. Yeah. Unfortunately, it was at the height of his cocaine addiction, and he took it fast, in a rather fast tempo.
Yeah, it was. It was fast. Well, I like your rendition of "You Can't Do That." Very different from the Fab Four.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like yours.
That used to go down well when we played live, actually, in America. They loved that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just did my best. That's all. That's all you can do. Do the rest.
Yeah.
Try to remember all the words.
Right. Well, how was it supporting and touring with Dire Straits?
You really want to know?
Yeah, sure.
Well, all I can say is that my band, the Ian Gomm band, they were members. They were all like friends of mine. Herbie. No, what am I talking about? It was Rod Demick, Alan Coulter, Taff Williams, and Nick Glennie Smith. And they put us together. We were together for about a few years, making records and all that, as well as playing live. But when we went to Dire Straits, we went there and, like, how can I put it? They were nice boys, but their road crew, we were just down to earth, like musicians. When we came at the sound check, any time we'd come into the hall when they were doing sound check, we'd roll our trousers up to our knees, we'd put knotted handkerchiefs on, and together holding hands going, you know, so they used to think, oh, here they are. So when Dire Straits on stage, I mean, they were, as I said, we had a 12-seater van. They had 2 Greyhound buses going over there. We go into it. I mean, we didn't have what's it called, a podium, or that was the thing where you say what you want. Yeah. A rider, what you want in your dressing room. Well, we had nothing, right? And their dressing room is full of it, everything they wanted, you know. And so when they were on stage, We're roadies used to let us into their dressing room, and we used to help ourselves to all the decent beer and the sandwiches and all that. They never knew. And I said to their tour manager once, he said, I'm having terrible trouble sleeping on this tour. And he said, well, come and listen to our set.
Yeah, that will help.
So you got down to Miami, and I think the gig was cancelled. It was a Sunday. The gig was cancelled, and where's the other one though? After we used to go back every time you play, you go back to the Holiday into the bar and you play like that. And what was his name? Mark Knopfler's brother, David Knopfler, was there, and he came up to us and he said, "We're at the bar." Oh, that's right, we're at the bar, and they'd be one end of the bar, we were at the other end of the bar, and these girls would come in because I was a top 20. I had a hit, and everything. They're going, which one? Where's Ian? Which one's Ian Gomm? Where is he? And they got to Dire Straits because they looked like they were pop stars. You know, they looked like the part. And no, he's down there. He's down there. So they come down to our end of the bar. I said, no, he's up there. Look, no. Down again. And somebody would say, where's he? And I said, oh, he's gone to bed. He's a boring. You wouldn't like him at all. Well, he came up to us one night and he said, why don't you boys take it seriously? You're not taking this seriously, are you? I said, look, we've been doing this for years. This is how we keep sane. We're making a Mickey out of things. This is how we keep sane. He said, oh, no. He said, you got it all wrong. He said, I know, I used to be a social worker. I said, go away, please. And so at Miami, they cancelled the gig, and then we're in the Holiday Inn, and we said, let's go. Oh, okay, we'll all go down to the bar, because we're not playing. Let's have a party in the bar. Of course, it was Sunday, wasn't it? Sunday, everything's shut on a Sunday. The Bible Belt, wasn't it?
Yes.
So we went out, and I said to Mark Knopfler, I said, look, we're going out to see if we can find some beer anywhere beer. So we actually found a place in the end that was selling. That's when I realised how weak this American beer was, because they were selling it on a Sunday. You know, it was like candy almost. Anyway, we talked about. So I said, look, I take a couple of packs up to. I said to him, if I find anything, I'll bring it to you. This is a true story now. I went up to his room, his hotel room, and he opened the door, and I said, look, we've found this couple of packs of beer. Have this. And he said, oh, no. I said, look, have it. We're on your tour. Have this beer. And he pulled out of his pocket, and he had a wad of dollars. And he's peeling them off to me. He said, here, have this. I'm far richer than you. I go, oh, Christ, what are these? He's not class at all,
Right.
Richer than
Yeah.
Yes. And you know what he did? At the last date of the tour, he decided that we could go on stage and we'd do the last number on the last tour together. They all had they just brought in these radio mics that would clip on the guitar and on the guitar, so you could walk around the stage. You didn't need leads or anything. They were around. I think we were playing Gloria or something. So we had it on at the back, going Gloria. So of course we only had leads, didn't we?
Yeah.
So, and he kept looking at me, going, "Come on, sing this. Come on, sing this." And in the end, I did. I forgot. I walked up. I pulled the amplifier off. He knew.
Oh man. Well,
sees that from the audience, do they? They don't know what it is.
Right. Well, let's talk about Cruel to Be Kind. What's the background story on this one that you and Nick co-wrote?
I recorded it with the Brinsley.
Yeah.
recorded it twice with the Brinsleys, and it was released. It was actually on the last unreleased album that I managed to get released finally. It's on.
Yeah.
Hold On and Cruel to Be Kind were both hits at the same time almost. I was thinking, this can't be happening to me.
Okay.
Hits, you know, and apparently the story that Nick, that he was signed to, was it CBS that signed him?
Okay. Okay.
Geller, I think his name was, Greg Geller. He signed it on one part of the understanding he signed it because he'd heard the Brinsley's version of Cruel to Be Kind. And he said, Nick, you've got to record this song. And to do it. He didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And it was so he made him record it. So I don't think he was like a throwaway. It was a throwaway track. And it's Rockpile playing on it. It's Dave Edmunds and Billy Bremner and Terry Williams. They're playing that. They did a fantastic job. But Nick didn't want to do it, but he did it anyway, and it was his biggest hit.
Right.
It's just it's quite funny, really.
Yeah. Well, that's another one that you guys over there did kind of missed originally. Didn't see the potential of a hit, and just like Hold On. I mean, it's wow. That's
Yeah, but you got to experience the crap that the BBC is.
Yeah, yeah.
We call it it's supposed to be called the British Broadcasting Corporation, but I used to call it the British Brainwashing Company.
Yeah, I can hear that. Well, on your second album, What a Blow, one of the best songs on there, Man on a Mountain. That's a very catchy track. Yeah. And
they say when I went to Nashville, I said, yeah, that song grows on you like warts.
It does grow on you, and it stays in your head long time after you listen to it.
I don't know. It's just way. It's about. I think it's about. It's what it is. It's somebody. I was looking at this people climbing up mountains and thinking, just bringing on for this, sleeping on a ledge with a hook in them. That he's. Why do you do? What am I doing? And I was thinking of the guys up there, thinking, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah. Another track, Slow Dancing, you covered.
Oh, well, that's fine. That's what's his name?
Johnny Rivers. Well, you covered it. Yeah, you covered that.
But, I sang America. They were crying. The emotion I put into it. When it was released in Japan, in Japan, they put. They love to put their own translation. They put their words. They listen to the record and they make their own book that goes in with the record. But it's a Japanese person who's writing what he thinks you're singing. So one of the lines on Slow Dancing is, "I hold her closely, and I whisper in her ear." And the Japanese translated was, "I hold her closely and I whistle in her ear."
Whistle. Well, maybe that works for some people. Whistle. Yeah, I like. It's funny watching some movies like on Netflix when they have the captions. The translations from it's another country, it's another language, and you see the translation and it's wrong. I laugh sometimes just watching those. They get the words what it sounds like, but it's not the same.
Woman said to me in the Ukulele Dreamers, "You got the words wrong."
Yeah, right. One other track off of that album I thought was really good, and I wanted to ask you, how well did it do? Here It Comes Again. That should have been a hit. That should have been a hit, I think.
Yes, it should have been. And I tell you why it wasn't.
BBC.
After Hold On, they said it was on Sniffing at Epic. We need another follow-up. We need a follow-up. So I said, we've got this song. Here it comes again. We actually got. I think we remixed it in New York, and we put a saxophone player on it. Had saxophone on it as well. So they took it to the record label, the record company, Stiff Epic, and they were going to play it, and then they realised that it's got it's got a lot. One of the lines in it, it says, and it's all about I can't get to sleep. Turn on the radio. I can't sleep. So I take a pill. Banned. You can't the radio.
That got it banned because of saying a pill.
You can't take a pill.
Wow.
That's how stupid it is.
Yeah.
You know, and, oh no, that's drug taking. It might not be. It might have been a slimming pill.
That's sad.
Well, that's how stupid it is.
Yeah.
You know, I was that far away from having a follow-up single, and I used the wrong word.
Yeah, well, pill, and it was a legal sleeping pill. It wasn't some illicit drug.
No.
You
can't.
You can't even refer to that.
You can't encourage people to sleep.
Yeah. Well, I think my favorite track on the whole album, though, is probably "I Just Want to Stay Here." I think that's my favorite. That's many.
That's many. When you're abroad, away from home, and it's sitting at a bar, and there's various temptations. Saying, I just want to stay. Leave alone.
Yeah. I like the whole feel of that one. Yeah.
The first one was I was coming down a holiday in corridor once, and these three teenage girls came up to me, and she said, "Hey, Ian, sign these."
Did they really?
I tried to, but my hands shaking too much. It's a short name. Perhaps not.
Oh my word. Okay. Well, that's good. That's going to be a stigma for you now.
Not that bad, is it?
Oh God. Well,
it's a good have a middle name.
Well, that's when you know you're a star. See, when that happens, you had your groupies.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I thought of that now.
Well, moving up to the Village Voice from '82, Hearts on Fire. That's a great track. Are you familiar with? Do you know who Greg Kihn is? Greg Kihn Band.
Not really.
Greg Kihn, K-I-H-N. Greg Kihn.
Yeah.
Okay, his sound and yours. A lot of the songs sound similar. I wouldn't say you're borrowing from him or he's borrowing from you at all. I wouldn't go there. But it's really, especially with the rhythm guitar. Really they sound very similar. Yeah, but just good catchy rock and roll. That's what I would call it. Catchy rock and roll. Yeah. Just like Murder in the Night.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah. Another one.
That's about going to in the Brinsleys. We went to Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland during the Troubles in the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like it's an undercurrent, and it's still there now. And there's something going on, people getting shot and all these sort of things, but it's all under the surface. The IRA, it's all under the surface. You can
Yeah, right. And a couple of more on there I wanted to mention: Hole in the Middle and Louise. Louise,
That's you know who did that? Who covered that?
Phil Everly.
It's so funny to think that I started
Uh-huh. Right, right. I was going to say that. Right, right,
and ended up
right. Was was
was
that?
only one of only half of them, but you know, actually, I was just thinking. I actually thought, well, I can do this. I must be, you know, I can write songs. And for him to do it, thinks, see, I can do it.
See,
Yeah,
what I was going to ask you, how hugely influential the Everly brothers were, and it's nice to give back something, right? Don't you think? Give a song back to them, you know, an appreciation, because
yeah,
he and Don gave so much. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, there you go. Makes it.
Full circle.
I actually I wrote an instrumental with this Herbie Flowers,
Mhm.
an instrumental called Carillon, which he did on a group. He was in a group with John Williams, the classical guitarist. He was doing that, and that was in a book called "100 Great Piano Solos," and the sheet music for that was in there. And I was trying to show my mother when she was alive, and because she never thought I was any good, really. Well, she never even seen me playing live. And I said, look, Mum, look, I'm in this book. Look here, look on the other side of it. Oscar and Hammerstein. Look, I'm there. He said, oh, I'll give you one thing, Ian, you're a trier.
so so were your parents not real encouraging for
Not
your
really.
book career?
That's, you know, just
Yeah.
a musician, not a
Right.
proper, there's no pension.
Yeah.
But
Well,
then you just get on with it, don't you?
right, right. I mean, you know, I've heard, I mean, if it's within you, you've got the spirit of the musician, you've got to let it out, you know, it's got to come out. You can't suppress it, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I think it's getting harder and harder these days. So when I was doing it, it didn't seem to be half as hard to you know even to to go and play anywhere. These
right.
days, it's like a major, you know. I like over here. They had this thing a few years ago. Pay to play. You had to pay the gig to let you play there.
Yeah. That's backwards.
Well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
And then they said you could pay to play, but if you bring your own audience, you don't have to pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's that. Okay, I can't be doing with it.
I've heard that today too, especially for UK musicians to come over here, it's almost impossible. I mean,
It's
you have to,
because the idiots.
yeah,
I rephrase that. The Tory government.
yeah, yeah,
They, they they convinced all these people over here to vote for this thing called Brexit to get you out of the European Union. So now there's so much paperwork involved in even. I heard somebody the other day saying when we want to go and tour Europe, and I suppose it might be America too, that you have to export all your equipment to the country you're going to play to. Like,
uh-huh,
and it said you have to itemize everything, even 100 plectrums, guitar plectrums. When you return, you have to return with 100 guitar plectrums. You have to, if you take guitar strings and you have to you've changed them during the tour, you have to show the packets with the used strings in them, all 6 of them, not 5, 6 in the packet. What is okay?
that's ludicrous. That's ludicrous.
We have a word over here called it's a load of old bollocks.
Uh-huh. I like that word. Yeah,
It's stupid.
it sounds like micromanaging to me. You know, I
It
don't.
sounds like it
I mean,
sounds like lunatics have taken over the asylum.
there you go. There you go. Exactly. Exactly. Well, I know a lot of. I know a lot of. Well, I know a few, not a lot, musicians that have just left the UK and moved to other countries. You know, they just had it.
Point. What's the point? It's not. You're not even respected for what you do. I once went to investigate getting a new car, and the guy was saying, "Well, do you want some? You can finance it. You know, get a finance deal to get the money to buy this car." He said, "What is your job?" And I said, "A musician." And he said, "It's not on my list." And he went down this list of people who were qualified to who could borrow money. And apparently a golf instructor was, but a musician wasn't on the list. It's not a proper job. It's, you know, how dare they?
Yeah, that's beyond me. I don't understand that one. Yeah.
Once I think I was going to my record label. I was going abroad, and I realised my passport was running out. My British passport was running out. So they sent one of the office juniors to get it renewed quickly. In it said occupation, and this guy, the person had put, you got occupation, musician. They might as well have put international drug smuggler. Or I went through the airport. They go, give them a passport. They go, yeah, and their hand would go under the
yeah.
You know, it's another, you know, it's another world. You're like, it's stupid.
Yeah, it is. And traveling now, I mean, flying anywhere, it's such a beating. Just going through the airports.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. It's not worth it.
No, not.
It's like you got 3 hours before if I wanted to go to Amsterdam, which is 40 minutes on a flight, it's hardly anything. Yeah. It might be half an hour up and down. You're not even up before you're coming down, and it'd be 3 hours mucking around in an airport before you can get on the plane. And you just say, "I can't be asked with this."
No, you have to spend a whole day in the airport. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Well, I wanted to talk some about your Rock and Roll Heart, which was recorded in Nashville. Talk about that. I do like the country vibe on that album. The Devil I Know, I really like the guitar on that one.
Yeah. Oh, that's Clive Gregson.
Yes, he does a great job.
That's great fun there. We were recording at Clement Vision to start with, which was Jack Clement's old place, and that's where Johnny Cash used to do. I was working with Johnny Cash's engineer, David Fergie, and it was, you know, I always wanted to do it, and I managed to do it. Get over there, and I just some of these musicians over there, and I'm just thinking, what am I doing here? I don't deserve all this. I'm not as good as all this. You know, there was Jack Clements. He's dead now, I think, but he was great. I used to like it. We used to go in the kitchen. It was his house the studio was in, and he would be making his own chicken noodle soup. And I I said, "Oh, what?" You know, asking him for his. I said, "I cook too, Jack. You know, what do you do?" And apparently, the day after I left, he came back. Jake Clements went around. He said, "Where's that limey? I like him."
But they sound like they were all real welcoming and accepting of you too.
Yeah. Well, it was you know, the pedal steel. That's so good.
Yeah.
But you know, it's so funny because Fergie, we were like in the coffee break, and he'd pick up a guitar and start playing "Hey, Billy's on the road," and that's it's the real thing. And then he said, "Man, I like that third Kinks album." What?
Speaking of the pedal steel, You've Broken Every Heart. Really like it on that track too.
Yeah. it's funny. We had this. They're all. Is he Brooke Lampton? I think I can't remember. And the other guy like was Joey Biscolin, the accordion player. He played rock and roll accordion. He's they're really like they just come. They use 3 hour session. They're in and out and they do it. That was it. They're making it around, and they ask you what you'd like, and they do it. I had this funny vision of the trying pedal steel on one of my tracks, and it wasn't going very well. And Pat McInerney, who was the drummer, he was in Nancy Griffiths' Blue Moon Orchestra. That's how we got Nancy to sing on 2 tracks he did, and the pedal steel he's playing that like Jack Clement's studio was all like a Western. And like a film set, actually, as well. That's why Johnny Cash liked it in there. And all these props and all sorts of things. And Pat McInerney, the pedal steel players playing this thing, and it's not working. So, those megaphones that they used to use in filmmaking, like like in the old days. Well, Pat, he picked up one of these megaphones and he went behind the pedal steel player and he went, "There's no easy way to say this. No."
Yeah.
I mean, it's as well, isn't it? Not all.
Well, a couple of love songs, nice love tracks off of that album. All the Other Girls and You Treat Me Like a King are really fine songs. Wow. And
have you ever seen that album? Have you seen it? Have you got a copy? Have you seen the artwork?
I've seen the artwork. Yes.
That's my friend in Holland, Nick Captain. He's really and he hasn't drawn anything for years. And I unblocked his creative whatever it was block, and he came out with a lot. He drew a picture for every song.
Yeah. I like that. I like intricate artwork like that, and you can spend hours looking at it, and trying to pick out the individuals and the characters. I like that. I wanted to ask you, because this was a real find for me, you working with Jeb Lloyd Nichols.
Oh, Jeb,
yeah. I did not know of him before I researched this for this interview. I don't know how I missed him, but I'm a fan now. I'm definitely a fan.
I tell you, I forgot your email address. I'll send you a copy of what we did during the lockdown. Because Jeb comes around my house, and every now and then we write a song together. And I had this idea for a song. We actually finished it at the end of the lockdown. And I still can't get any action on it, but it's called "Going to the Pub on Christmas Eve."
Okay.
It's I really like it.
Well, only time will tell. It's a great album. I mean, wonderful album. How well has it been received?
Well, you know what I always say? I say the records, we don't release them; they escape.
They escape. Okay. Right.
It's so hard. There's so many people doing it. I always think of like when all these big old dinosaurs of rock. They say, "I'm releasing another album." Oh, please don't. You're just clogging up. There's other young people who want to get us right to the action. You're just clogging it all up.
Right. There's too many people recording and putting stuff out there now. You're right. But I want to say this. For the listeners, you need to hear this one. Ian Gomm, Jeb Lloyd Nichols, 2010s, Only Time Will Tell.
Available on 3D Baby.
There you go. You heard it from the man. But it's every track on it. His voice reminds me of, I'm sure he's been told this before, a little bit of James Taylor.
Yeah, he's also he's an artist. He does he paints, he writes. He's all around clever dick.
And he's originally American, that moved over to Wales. He actually lived in Texas for a while.
Yeah, I know. When did he grow up? He was in Missouri. He grew up, something like that.
Missouri City, Texas.
Yeah. He married a British girl, and he took her over to when he first married, and he took her over to meet all his relations over there and show her where he grew up.
Mhm.
And he said one of his cousins said to her, she said, "Oh, and I say, and she said, you should talk funny."
Well, I wanted to plug a few songs that I really enjoyed. I can't pick a favorite on the album. I really can't. But Take This Hurt Off of Me. Oh man, that starts off the album on the right.
Mixed it.
Yeah.
David Fergie mixed it in Nashville.
Uh-huh.
I sent it over to him, and he mixed it in his own little studio he has over there, the Butcher's Shop, it's called. He mixed that. I think it was mastered in America as well.
Okay.
I sent what it was. I had all these. I think they're called Pro Tools. It was mixed on a Pro Tools system,
Okay.
and I had to send him the tracks as files, Pro Tool files, and they're quite large, these files. And the difference between American internet and British internet, I have British Telecom internet, and I was sending him these files, and it took me almost a week to upload them. And we had these things like one of our kettles tripped the fuse here, so I had to, and then it stopped sending it, uploaded it, so then I had to reset it all, and then that was another 4 hours to send one. And after doing this for a couple of days, I phoned up Fergie in Nashville, and I said, "Are these files coming through okay?" And he said to me, "What sort of broadband you got there, boy? Is it clockwork?" I said, "No, it's standard British Telecom."
Funny. I didn't know it was that different between there and here. I didn't know that.
We're getting there slowly, but
yeah. Well, the other tracks I want real quickly, because we're running a little long. Snakes and Ladders.
No,
yeah. The Quiet Life. Wow. Lover's Walk.
Yeah.
Go Through Sunday. And that's great lyrics. To get to Monday, you got to go through Sunday. I love it.
Jim Ford song. Jim Ford.
Oh, is it a Jim Ford? Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
So did we do Surprise? I think that's Jim Ford. And Bobby Womack wrote that.
Yeah.
And Jim Ford wrote it, and
yeah.
we Womack. That's where we heard Bobby Womack singing it. That was it.
Okay. And then one last, No One Loves You Like I Do.
Yeah. That's my song.
That's your song. Yeah. I had to plug that one. Yeah. So that's again that's
a great CD baby. Gotta get it.
Yeah. That's a great album. Great album. I need to start looking and finding more of his material, Mr. Nichols. I need to start researching that. He's got a great way about him. Really.
Was is our new album, Gemini new album, $300 bill in each CD.
Oh, is that right? Okay. That's a good marketing technique. Yeah. I appreciate you taking the time, and you got a good sense of humor. I like that.
Well, you've got to. You don't. Other than that, they'll get you in the end.
Yeah, you're right about that. You have
Rules okay.
you have to take it all in stride, right? Yeah, you really do. All right. Well, I'll let you know once I get this, edited down, and once I post it, I'll send you a link for it. So let's keep in touch. All right. And
Okay.
and I do appreciate you taking the time out to do this. And I've enjoyed the conversation and laughing quite a bit. I've enjoyed that. So it's been fun. All right. Well, Ian, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Okay.
And
Adios, amigos.